Hey everyone, and welcome. I am absolutely pumped to dive into today's explainer with you all. We're going to be unlocking what I honestly consider to be a literal superpower when it comes to design, problem solving, or just, well, everyday observation. Seriously, we're going to completely flip our perspective to see this invisible potential that is quite literally sitting right under our noses. It's all about looking at the world around us, not just for what it is, but for the gaps, the margins, the totally overlooked blank canvases that we just walk past every single day. We're talking about unused real estate.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a question that's going to sound a little bit like a riddle. What on earth links a vintage 1997 web browser to a European restroom? Right? At first glance, absolutely nothing. I mean, one is ancient digital history, and the other is, well, physical plumbing. But stick with me here, because I promise you, by the end of this explainer, you're going to see exactly how these two wildly different things share this absolutely fascinating connection. And honestly, it's a connection that is totally going to change how you see the spaces around you.
All right, section one, the hidden space around us. So, to really wrap our heads around the core concept of this explainer, what exactly are we talking about here? Well, our working definition of unused real estate goes like this. It's overlooked physical or digital spaces that can be repurposed to create innovative solutions and improve usability. Just think about that for a second. We are constantly surrounded by spaces that have been assigned one very specific job. And here's the kicker. Once our brains accept that job, we kind of just put on blinders. We stop seeing the space for its raw potential. We just file it away as taken. But if we can actually train ourselves to identify this unused real estate, oh man, it opens the door to some wildly innovative ideas. Let's move to section two, rethinking the physical world. Let's try treating our physical environment like a giant puzzle where we have to consciously force ourselves to look outside our assigned mental boxes. For example, imagine you're walking into your local supermarket. If I gave you the mission of finding brand new locations to advertise products to shoppers, where exactly would you look? First off, you gotta realize that you're currently looking at the environment from strictly inside a mental box. Everything you see has been neatly assigned a purpose by your brain, right? The products? Well, they're in containers to make them transportable. The shelves? They're just there to raise the products to eye level, maximizing that vertical space. Those wide aisles? They exist purely so shopping carts don't crash into each other. And the smooth, flat floors are just, the path you walk on. That's the box. Everything has its neatly assigned little role. But hold on a minute. Is that really all the floor space is good for? If you ask yourself that question and really mean it, a tiny weak spot suddenly appears in your reality. You're finally peeking outside of that mental box. You're tasked with finding advertising locations, and suddenly it hits you. The floor is literally a massive, smooth, flat canvas. It has way more potential than just being a runway for wheels and shoes. Boom! Supermarkets could totally advertise directly on their floors. Now, hey, whether you personally find floor ads super clever or just mildly annoying, you can't deny that it is a brilliant realization, completely unused real estate that was literally sitting right beneath our feet the whole time. And that brings us to a brilliant historical example taking place in older European train stations. Let's look at the grand evolution of restroom design. Okay, so era one, we had those standard floor-to-ceiling walls for bathroom stalls. These were cramped little rooms, and because the walls met the floor, they created these incredibly tight corners that were, quite frankly, a nightmare to clean. So they evolved to era two, freestanding walls. Basically, a portion of the wall was lifted off the floor, definitely a step up. You could see the feet of the person inside so you knew it was occupied, plus it was a bit easier to mop. But the walls still stood on legs, meaning there were still annoying little corners to mop around. Then someone stepped back, looked at the problem, and realized the actual issue was the word standing. Why did the walls have to stand on the floor at all? Enter era three. Someone literally just looked up and noticed the massive, completely unused real estate of the ceiling. By hanging the walls from the ceiling instead of propping them up from the floor, they removed literally all obstacles for the mops. They even routed the toilet drains directly through the back wall instead of the floor. Boom! Floor cleaning problem completely solved, making things immensely faster. Kind of makes you wonder, how many decades did it take to realize they could just use the ceiling? Section 3. Unlocking digital potential. Now, this exact same concept applies perfectly to the screens we're staring at all day long. Let's take a quick trip back to 1997. If you were surfing the web on Netscape or Internet Explorer, you had that trusty address box at the top where you typed in your URLs. But look at how that interface element was treated. It was permanently labeled with the static word address. But here's the thing. Once a user learns what that box does, that static label is just dead weight. It's taking up prime screen real estate. Well, a prototype was actually built where that boring address label became a dynamic drop-down menu. Because think about it, search phrases could also be typed into that box. So this drop-down revealed options to search for images, maps, stock quotes, the weather, the whole shebang. Now, unfortunately, this specific UI idea didn't quite make it out of the lab at the time. But the takeaway here is huge. Just by noticing that a piece of the screen didn't always need a static label, they found unused real estate that opened up massive possibilities for way better usability.
Moving right along to Section 4, taking a mental inventory.
Okay, so this all sounds great, but how do we actually start doing this ourselves? Well, you can actively train your brain to spot unused real estate by systematically breaking down a situation. Imagine someone is up on stage giving a PowerPoint presentation. Let's literally inventory every single component in that room. We've got the computer, the mouse, the projector, the big screen, the presenter themselves, and of course, the audience. Just by running through this basic checklist, we can start isolating where hidden space might actually be hiding in plain sight. Now, let's narrow that mental inventory way down and zoom right in on the computer itself. What are the primary physical components that our presenter is actually interacting with? Basically, it's just the display and the keyboard. So, if we inventory that keyboard during a typical slide deck, check out this stark contrast. On the left side of our imaginary dividing line, we have what's actually being utilized, the spacebar or right arrow to advance, and maybe the left arrow or P key to jump back. Pretty basic. But on the right side, we have a massive, glorious expanse of completely untouched keys. Wait a second, the keyboard is barely being used at all. Almost the entire board is sitting there as unused real estate. So, what could we potentially do with all those unused keys? Let's brainstorm some truly genius applications. First step, extra slide keywords. Presenters almost always have backup slides, right? The ones tucked away just in case a specific question gets asked. Well, what if you assigned a unique keyword to those extra slides? Someone in the audience asks a tricky question, you just smoothly type that keyword on those unused keys, your hidden slide instantly pops up, and you look like a total rock star. Or, honestly, my personal favorite, the time saver key. Have you ever realized you are running way short on time during a talk? What if you could hit just one specific unused key and it automatically hides all the less critical slides you flagged earlier in the deck? You seamlessly skip ahead and gracefully wrap up right on time, and the audience has zero clue you even skipped anything. I mean, these ideas are incredibly valuable, but we probably never, ever would have thought of them if we hadn't actively looked for that unused real estate sitting right under our fingertips. And finally, Section 5. Designing for accessibility. You see, spotting unused real estate isn't just some clever little UI trick or a sneaky way to save time in a boardroom. It's a mindset that can have a profound, genuinely life-changing impact on society. 150. I really want to emphasize that number for a second, because 150 years is a staggering amount of time. And that is exactly how long it took for the US Treasury Department to realize something absolutely crucial about their most ubiquitous everyday product. Yep. It took roughly a century and a half, but it finally dawned on the Treasury Department that they needed to reimagine U.S. currency. They really looked at the paper money they've been printing forever and suddenly realized, wait, we have all this unused real estate right here on the bills. By finally leveraging that empty space, they realized they could print the denomination of each bill in a significantly larger typeface. This completely revolutionized the accessibility of paper money. It made it vastly easier for individuals who are visually impaired to confidently identify their own cash. It's such a prime, beautiful example of how finding hidden space isn't just about being clever, sometimes it's deeply, deeply necessary. So here is the absolute crucial takeaway for today. Once you train your brain to look for unused real estate, you simply cannot unsee it. Whether it's the ceiling of a busy train station, the blank space on a software interface, the keys you aren't currently pressing, or literally the paper money sitting in your pocket, the world is absolutely brimming with hidden potential just waiting to be activated. I want to wrap up this explainer by throwing a direct challenge right back at you. What unused real estate are you staring at right now? Take a second, look around your desk, your room, or that big project you're currently working on. Do a quick mental inventory. Find the box, and then see what happens when you look outside of it. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I highly encourage you to go out there and start finding those hidden spaces in plain sight.